AITA for moving out without informing my roommate and possibly causing him to lose the place? First, I would like to inform you that I am on the autism spectrum. If you are going to use sarcasm in your comments, please label it, as I have difficulty distinguishing it even while written. Also, feel free to give it to me straight. I am not a fragile person. I, 22M, have been living with a roommate for close to 5 months now. I am not on the lease. The rent and utilities are too much for my ex-roommate to handle on his own. I have a tic, you could say. I count. And by that I mean I count steps, stairs, light posts, sips, bites of food, pillows. It helps me cope with the stimulation of the world. When I moved in, I made it clear to my then roommate that he was not allowed to touch my food. I meal prep. Since 1, I can't eat anything I or my family didn't cook, and 2, while cooking I tend to count the individual pieces of food. Think how many chicken chunks, how many pieces of vegetables. And if while eating the numbers don't match, I tend to get overwhelmed. He respected that for the first couple of months. Then he started stealing bites. It stressed me out and I would talk with him. At first he used to deny it, then he apologized and promised to never do that again. A couple weeks later he would do so again. 5 days ago I got home after a very stressful day and took out a container of strawberries. When I got the end of it, it was 3 strawberries short. I had a meltdown, the first in more than 4 years. After I managed to calm down and feel better, I called my parents and asked to move back in while looking for another place. Packed my stuff and was out by the next day. I did not inform him of my moving. And he had an upfront month's rent, so I did not need to give him anything. I actually gave up 3 weeks of rent. He did not even know I moved out until today. And he called me panicked about his situation. I told him that he was bad for my mental health and I will no longer be living with him, and I am blocking him from everywhere after we hang up. He called me an awe and told me that he will become homeless because I couldn't spare 3 measly strawberries. I am bad with human interactions and judging situations accurately. So AITA in this situation? Hey, fellow Spectrum peep here. While I think everything you did was legally correct, since you weren't even officially renting, if I understood that right, and made a good decision caring about your health, I think you should have at least left a note or message to your roommate about leaving. Leaning towards Esh looking at it all though, since I really get your struggle too. But if we're just judging you leaving without any notice, you acted like an awe. NTA for 2 main reasons. 1. You're not on the lease. Therefore have no legal reason to give them any notice, etc. 2. From what you've said, you've informed him of conditions you need to be met in order to live together happily. And he has not maintained that, which is not acceptable. Therefore you have every right to move on and find somewhere which meets your needs. Info. What was it that made you decide that you should not inform him? Besides the assumption that he would notice. Esh. He is a lot worse than you, but you should have let him know you would be moving. The fact that you decided to move after he continually disrespected you is 100% understandable. Esh. You were justified in moving, but not leaving a note was petty. And I, compassionately, hope you have some sort of therapy, because the way you're living now sounds debilitating. Esh. You sound as if you have some fairly specific debilitating tics. He was aware of this, and still took actions that he knew would exacerbate them. You don't need to stay in a situation that is harmful to your mental stability. However, it is contingent upon you as a grown functioning adult to act like one, and when breaking in agreement, written or verbal, to inform the other party. You should have informed your ex-roommate immediately that you had moved rather than waiting for him to figure it out. Esh. He needed to respect your requirements. You were there for 5 months. There's no reason you couldn't have said, "I'm moving out." A text takes 5 minutes at the very most. Esh. You made clear your boundaries and he ignored them. But even with that, a basic message of, "Sorry, I will move out because of my last day" is basic manners. Yeah. Legally you don't have to. But this isn't legal advice. This is AITA. I bet your doctors or counselors know of programs you can access to get a place on your own. Rent subsidies or such. So you don't have to worry about somebody else tromping on your shit. Esh. He is the biggest asshole in this story, but you should have told him you moved out. Should you go the roommate route again, you should invest in a fridge locker. Esh. Roommate didn't respect clear boundaries. You were 10,000% justified in moving out. You should have informed him immediately to give him time to find a new roommate or other arrangements. NTA. He was trampling all over your boundaries. And you didn't move out over 3 strawberries. You moved out because he was a bad roommate who was detrimental to your mental health. NTA. He was disrespecting you by stealing your food after you told him not to steal your food anymore. He was crossing your boundaries and lied to you about many things. Lastly, he was affecting your mental health and well-being. It's good you moved out of there. He seemed very toxic to be around. NTA. You set clear boundaries and your ex-roommate crossed them multiple times. You even explained why you had those boundaries. He only has himself to blame. Me and my roommate, we share food and it's not too much of a big thing, but if I say eat the last bit of what my roommate bought, whether it be cookies, crackers, bread, you get the idea. I buy a new pack of it next time I go to the store. Esh. The roommate sucks because you made the boundaries clear. They transgressed them repeatedly and were inconsiderate. We don't know the roommate and if they have any issues around impulse control, etc. But generally not cool. But you suck too. Leaving and blocking everything is not how you should handle disagreements. When you left, you should have at the very least left a note. Yes, the strawberries were upsetting, but uprooting someone's shelter is objectively worse and disproportionate. It's the base of the pyramid. If you can't live with this person anymore and leaving is going to impact their living situation, you can at least handle it like an adult with a spine and actually tell them. Esh. He absolutely should not have continued to disregard your boundaries. He sounds like an absolute nightmare of a person. That said, that nightmare person should have been informed that you moved. He has very little time to find a new roommate, so every minute counts. Expecting him to notice is not enough. He needed confirmation. If something like this were to happen in the future, you should ask your parents or a friend to relay the message for you. Esh. But mostly your old roommate. You probably should have at least told him before you left. But he was extremely disrespectful of your triggers. I don't know what they are called for autism, so maybe that's the wrong term? I mean, trigger just means to cause something to happen, so it could work, but IDK. Feel free to educate lol. I have suspected autism that I'm having an appointment about in like a month. And though I don't think I have many, if any, stressors related to that specifically, I do have misophonia. And I get extremely overwhelmed when people don't respect my triggers. Chewing. Sounds of friction. Like when things rub against each other so hard it makes squeaking noises, or people shifting in. Leather seats. Loud breathing. And whispering are big ones for me. And while I don't blame people who do them on accident, it pisses me off to no end when I respectfully ask for them to stop and they don't listen. So even if I don't have full-on meltdowns, I get where you're coming from completely. Plus I've come pretty close a few times. I am also autistic, and in my opinion the way everyone in this thread is treating you is actually offensive. You're getting kid-gloved like you are mentally disabled. In short, if you are aware enough to ask this question in an online forum, you already know that what you did was in a whole move. Also, in many states you would be considered a tenant and in breach of contract even without being on the lease if you lived in the apartment for more than 30 days, so I would check that out before your roommate takes you to small claims court. If you cannot communicate with a roommate, then you are not ready to live with roommates. Full stop. Your roomie is absolutely terrible for eating your food. That is something that is generally triggering for me. However, my friend, you are just as bad. Since you're the one writing, I'm focusing on you. Your whole disappearing act is an extremely immature and childish thing to do. Some courts will honor verbal agreements. So if your roomie was petty and smart, they could attempt to take you to small claims court. The only thing you're legally free from is the actual apartment complex going after you for any reasons. Keep that in mind. I have several questions. 1. Did you try problem solving at all? You had 2 conversations with your roomie, then you basically ran away. AKA you pulled your disappearing act. Why not get a small fridge for your room? 2. When you begin working and the business has 1 fridge per 25-ish or more employees, are you going to run away when mistakes happen? Someone spills food on my food almost weekly. Occasionally had someone take my container cause it was exactly like theirs. 3. When you get a lease with another person, are you going to run away when they do something you don't like? 4. How often do you disappear on people? Is this common for you? This is not a good habit to have. I know being on the spectrum is difficult, and I'm not trying to be insensitive. But this whole disappearing act you seem proud of has me seeing red. And that's coming from someone who is sympathetic towards to food stuff. Yes, protect your mental health. But don't be an asshole.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. AmITheAsshole is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.